Hey everyone, Justin McLennan here from Roll Potential. If this is your first time watching, thanks for watching. If you're coming back, thanks for coming back. So Roll Potential, we are an organization where one of the things we believe is that sales roles should serve the individuals within them, not the other way around. And that's why one of the things we do here is we really help reps unlock their full potential. We do it through role clarity, balance, and healthy growth. And one of the keys for reps reaching their full potential is mastering two mindsets. You have the seller empowered mindset and you have the buyer empowered mindset. Here's what we typically see with sales teams, and this is not uncommon in the sales environment and sales landscape today, unfortunately. But that is where the sales culture is all about short-term wins. And it's when we are working with customers and we are hearing things like, we need to hit our monthly goal. We need to close this month. We need to move the number this week. And when the reward system in place is rewarding short-term wins constantly, and that's all the focus is that short-term, we tend to see two things happen next. First, your reps start believing that the only way they can succeed is by staying in control. It's like reps trying to squeeze water in their palm to hold it. Of course, it's not going to work. Or we start to see reps try to drive and force the momentum of deals. Of course, that's going to hinder some deals. And what's happening is they're just never taking their foot off the gas. They're always pushing the pedal to the floor. And it's because they are inside a culture that is telling them they need to win, 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 now, now, now. And the second thing we tend to see is that when reps take on these thoughts of, I'm going to take control of every deal. I'll push and I'm going to force that momentum, or I'm never going to slow down. When they take on those type of beliefs, we tend to see reps really lean heavily into the seller empowered mindset. While it's not bad to go to the seller empowered mindset and go far to that side because sometimes it is needed, unfortunately, when you create a culture that pushes people there, but then keeps them there, that's where we start to see burnout really come into play. So let me walk you through the pattern that we see that often leads to burnout. So first that pattern starts with a trigger. What's the trigger? The trigger is the sales culture, the culture where it says, hey, what can you pull this month? Hey, don't let it slip. We need this now, now, now. Or hey, how many deals can you get closed by Friday? And again, this type of culture leads to reps having thoughts such as, I'm only as good as my last month, right? We're always trying to think about being better now, now, now. We can never take a moment to relax. If I slow down and if I relax, I'm going to fall behind. And I must hit my numbers at all cost, right? And of course, if this is how we're feeling, we're going to have feelings of stress, fear, anxiety, guilt, and frustration. And when these are our thoughts and these are our feelings, of course, our behaviors and our actions are going to be one where we're forcing deals even at the cost of the sale. We're trying to control the process like we discussed. These are all fear-based behaviors. And one of the worst of them that I hate to see is that when people start neglecting their personal time. So this is why the belief, in my mind, sales is a grind, holds so true, especially in today's world, because a lot of reps, unfortunately, this is the pattern that in the cycle that they're living in. Of course, it would be a grind to live in this pattern. But the good part is that there is another side to our scale. It's a mindset that unfortunately many sales cultures don't really talk about too often, and that is the buyer empowered mindset. That's the mindset that allows reps to say things like, it's not about pushing, but it's about guiding my prospect. It's about creating space for the buyer to decide, right? How many times do you hear people say that? But it's about being patient enough to walk with the prospect instead of trying to pull them across the lines. Now, we do find that most reps tend to lean too far either to this side or this side. And unfortunately, in our sales world, a lot of people have assumptions that if you're on the buyer empowered mindset, creating space, being patient, you don't really fit the mold. But if you're in that seller empowered mindset and you're a go, 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 got to win, 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 a lot of people, unfortunately, their belief is, ooh, that's a good salesperson. But the real skill And the real reps that stand out are the ones that know how and when to use the seller empowered mindset and the buyer empowered mindset. They know how to move across the scale. And that's how we can prevent burnout. And that's how we can create sustainable success. But it all starts with the rep. Obviously, they're the one in the pattern. But even so, you take it to the next level. That's the trigger. That's the sales culture. And that's where the culture needs to change. And the type of culture it needs to happen is a regenerative sales culture. And that's a different topic for a different day. But I love analogies. So let me use one here to kind of walk you through these mindsets a little bit more. So let's go on a hike together. So sometimes if I'm the guide and I'm hiking and you're following behind me, sometimes I'm going to have to let the group go first. And I'm going to have to let the group find their pace. And then there's going to be other times where I'm going to have to step and charge forward. I'm going to have to set the pace. And I'm going to have to clear the path and show you where to go. Why? Because I know the destination that we're both trying to reach and I know how to get there. Sales works the same way. The seller empowered, the buyer empowered mindset. They both mattered. One's not better than the other. They both have their moment in the sales cycle. So again, one mindset, the seller empowered, I'm in control. I press for the next step. The other, buyer empowered. I guide. I give room. I focus on the pace. Again, neither's better, but each comes with their moment. The real mastery comes down to 3 things. Number 1 is awareness. You'll see it up there. Notice which mindset you're leaning into most of the time. Number 2, adaptability. Know when to switch. Know when to move across that scale. Don't sit just over here and don't sit over there. And number 3, intention, the most important one, which is always serve the buyer's intention. And here's what this kind of looks like or may look like in real life. So let's take, for example, when should we use the seller empowered mindset? That could be at the end of the sales cycle. You got the prospect right to that goal line. They're so close. You know that it is in the best interest of the buyer to pull the trigger and move forward. So this is a great time to adapt that seller empowered mindset, step out in front and help pull them across, be that leader who's in front. Now let's look at another part of the sales cycle. Let's go to the beginning of the sales cycle. Let's say I just made a cold call, right? Prospect's not even sure what their challenge is, what their problem is that they're trying to solve. What they need is they need patience. They need me to give them space and they need me to guide them with questions and let them catch their breath. That's the buyer empowered mindset. Same hike, different terrain. Same sales process, different mindsets. But again, knowing which role to play, the seller empowered rep or the buyer empowered mindset rep, that is what's going to allow you to start to build trust. And of course, but first, before we get into the importance of trust, which you'll see at the bottom of the screen, we'll get there. We got to acknowledge that too many reps are stuck in that seller empowered mindset. Why? Because of the culture, the type of sales culture and what it rewards. It rewards the short-term wins and it's all about rewarding control, pressure, and urgency. But in today's market, with all the transparency, with all the AI, our buyers are more informed than ever. So really, control is just an illusion. And if you chase control, you're going to lose trust. And if you serve intention, you're going to earn trust. And trust is the only currency that's going to really matter. Sales isn't always about pushing. Sales isn't always about waiting. Again, it's about a balance. It's about being the guide who knows both roles and when to play them. Seller empowered matters when momentum is needed. Buyer empowered mindset matters when patience is needed. Awareness is going to give you the clarity. Adaptability is going to give you the influence. But the intention gives you the trust. And trust earns you not just the win, not just today's win, but it earns you the long-term partnership for that long-term sustainable growth. So here's the truth. It's definitely not enough to just know these 2 mindsets and know that they exist. That's what today's video is for. Bring awareness to them. The best reps and what matters the most is that you know exactly when to use them and how to use them. And that's why in our Rep Ready Bootcamp, we really dive into these profiles And we give you, with clarity, we allow you to see which one do you typically naturally lean to. We also help you understand how to learn and how to read the buyer so that you know when to shift gears across that scale of that seller and empowered mindsets. Because when you know how to use both those mindsets, again, you don't just win the first deal, you earn the partnership. And that's what long-term success is built on. That is what separates the good reps from the great reps. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Hopefully we'll see you at one of our boot camps.